Hello all, this is Halloween, and tonight I'm doing a special for Christmas. We will be visiting the University of Tampa, or what was once the Tampa Bay Hotel. Founded in 1891 by Henry B. Plant, a famous railroad magnate from right here in the Tampa area. It spans 6 acres of land and was once the Mecca of Tampa. It had 551 rooms and was the first real hotel of its kind here in Florida. Perhaps one of the first in the nation, in which every room had electricity, even a telephone, and some of them even had full bathrooms. So, as you can imagine, it was highly sought after. It was also a resort. It had a racetrack, it had a spa, an indoor pool, all kinds of amenities that weren't heard of at that time. So of course, word reached across the entire world of this awesome hotel that was built here. And some of the most famous people in the last 200 years had actually stayed at this hotel. One of them being Roosevelt and his Rough Riders. The hotel actually was a hub, if you will, for the military during the Spanish-American War. Winston Churchill also stayed here, Booker T. Washington, the Queen of England, and Babe Ruth signed his first baseball contract in the grand dining room. Today, at the university, in the south wing of Plant Hall, houses the H.B. Plant Museum, which is where I will take you tonight. Now, I couldn't video in there too much. They had strict rules on that. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Callie, it's like 2 days till Christmas. How am I supposed to make it to the exhibit? Don't worry, the H.B. Plant Museum is open all year round for your viewing pleasure, and they do have exhibits that change with the seasons. So let's say you want to come to Tampa in February. They have a Victorian Valentine's exhibit, and the exhibits change regularly throughout the year. So you will still be in for a treat, even if you can't quite make it this Christmas. Now, no worries. It wouldn't be my channel if there wasn't some kind of haunt involved. So, the university is known to be haunted by a woman in a red dress and a man in a brown suit. I'm sure they are of that Victorian era. So, if you happen to see somebody that fits that description on your stroll, it may not be someone among the living. You may be in the presence of a ghost. Enjoy! Another place you might want to visit if you're in the Tampa Bay area, and even at the H.B. Plant Museum, you'll want to go to the Riverwalk. Now, Tampa's come a long way since I was a kid. I mean, there was almost nothing back when I was a kid, just a few office buildings, but it's come a really long way since then. The Riverwalk is a great place if you just want to take a stroll right before you go to the H.B. Plant Museum. It is there. It has a lot of history there as well. There are several statues of depictions of original Tampa pioneers on the Riverwalk, and it tells you a little brief history of each different one, which is awesome. And another cool thing that I ran across that I never knew was that Jimi Hendrix actually played twice at Curtis Hickson. So it was a really cool thing to learn myself. Obviously, it was not a park, a waterfront park at that time. It was a venue, and he played there. So if you love Jimi Hendrix and you love history, that's another great thing you can do with your family if you're visiting the museum. The Tampa Theater opened on October 15th, 1926, built by Paramount Pictures, and the architect was John Eberson. At the time, admission was only 25 cents. Unfortunately, it fell on hard times in 1950. Post-war circumstances left the theater in turmoil, so they were forced to raise their prices to stay afloat, and because of that, attendance was very low. So in 1973, it was slated for demolition, but the community got together and committees were formed, and with the help of the city council, they were able to reopen and restore what we now know today as the Tampa Theater. Some folks call it the eighth wonder of the world. It reopened in 1977 and has been a Tampa landmark ever since. Now it is haunted as well by the ghost of Foster Fink Finley. Fink was his nickname. That's what they called him there at the theater. But he was the projectionist for 30 years there at the theater. He was said to be one of the most happy-go-lucky kind of guys. He loved his job. He loved going to work. He was always dressed to the nines, and he loved smoking his cigars. Unfortunately, one night in 1965, during a showing of Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, Mr. Finley went to work like he always does, and he was just as spry as a cricket, as my mom would say. And he went up to do his job there in the projection room. It was a full house. And when it was time to change the reel during that showing that night, the reel wasn't getting changed. So concerned, a couple of the employees went up to check on Fink. And they found that he had dropped to the ground. Mr. Finley had died of a heart attack right there in the projection room doing what he loved most. So he is said to haunt the Tampa Theater. Sometimes people will hear his keys jingling, like he's trying to get into the projection room. Or some folks have been inside the projection room and actually seen Mr. Finley standing there, probably still doing his job. There's another man that haunts the theater. He's dressed all in like a white tuxedo, so he must have been there for some kind of formal event and probably fell in love with the theater, like I did. I absolutely love the theater, but he's said to be standing somewhere in the balcony. He will kind of appear out of nowhere. Many of the employees at the theater have seen him, and he just kind of appears and vanishes. And there's another woman. As you walk into the theater, you'll see the concessions off to the left, and right above the concessions, there's a balcony, and a woman in white has been seen pacing back and forth up there. Now, it is said that there was a woman before the theater was built, probably around the late 1800s, before it was ever anything. It was just basically what we would know as a parking lot, but just a grounds. It didn't have really much going on there. It was just, leveled out and nothing happening. And there was a woman, I guess, who was strolling through that area one day, and she was trampled by a horse and carriage. And she is said to haunt the theater as well. We've arrived at the beautiful Tampa Theater, and we're going to go in and see It's a Wonderful Life. This is what's on the bill for the month. I don't know if you can see it very well.
Visits, okay, and I think we've gotten to the bottom of it with Aetna, but you know, it's just I couldn't get any satisfaction out of the people who were happening to the billing, you know, with questions. The first girl I talked to didn't want to deal with her over the phone. She said,
thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so thankful for all of you watching. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe. I know you're out there watching and you haven't subscribed yet, and you're gonna miss some good stuff coming up. If you're gonna be around next week, I plan to upload an episode regarding the 1920s. So if you're going to a 1920s themed New Year's Eve party, you might wanna check it out. It's a way to do 1920s without breaking the bank, and items you can find anywhere. So check that out. And have a Merry Christmas. I know the last couple years have been rough for everybody. I've had a lot of loss in my life too. So I'm going to suggest that if you've fallen on hard times, maybe you've lost your job, or you don't have a lot of money to go the places you want to go or do the things that you want to do, fall in love with your city. There's so much history in every city and in every town in the United States. Find a new spot you've never eaten before, or find a museum that interests you nearby, or a park, or learn some history, or anything of that nature. There's always things in your city or in your town that you can find that will be so interesting to you, and it'll make you feel like you're on a vacation. That's my suggestion for 2022. I bet you don't know everything about your city. And I'm looking forward to the next year and spending it with you. So thank you so much for watching. Remember, like, subscribe, share the video, and God bless you all. Merry Christmas. I'll see you next time.